Welcome to another episode of TAAP. I'm Chad.
I'm Michael.
And Michael, today we're going to talk about something that it doesn't matter what you're doing. There's only one way to get better at it. Practice, practice, practice.
Yes. In everything you do. This is my gun, this is my rifle. Better practice with both.
Yes, you better. So, when you're practicing, you still want to keep one thing in mind.
That is true.
And that's the 4 rules of firearm safety. They're going to appear right here.
There you go, right there. So, 4 rules of safety. Follow my finger and we can go through this here. So, 4 rules of firearm safety. We're going to go down to number 1. Always keep your firearm pointed in a safe direction. The flash is away from you and only at the target you're wanting to shoot. Number 2. There we go. Treat all guns as though they are loaded. Remember what Chad said in the beginning, that you're not checking to make sure it's empty. You're checking to make sure it's not loaded. Make sure you're not looking for the shiny bits, right?
Well, no, that's what you are looking for, is the shiny part in there.
Right, you are looking for the shiny bits. So you're looking for the shiny bits. Make sure that you're going through there and go, oh, yeah, I'm looking for the shiny, but I don't see it. That's good. Then you go down to number 3. Keep your finger off the trigger until you are ready to shoot. Don't put it on the guard. Keep it above the trigger. And then number 4, always be sure of your target and what is beyond it. Behind it, around it. Yes, always look around. Pay attention to your surroundings.
Yep, because that little freedom pellet isn't going to stop at the first thing it hits.
Yeah, it's not like you shoot it and it's going to go and say, oh, whoa, you're not my target, let me stop. This ain't Roger Rabbit. We don't have those bullets.
So, this all goes back to, just like you when I was younger, I played sports.
Yep.
And didn't matter what sport it was, we had practice every day of the week.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes those practices were a bitch.
Oh, yeah. I remember some of them.
But you practice to get better.
Correct.
Same thing with a firearm. Doesn't matter if you are trying to get better at clearing your holster, acquiring your sight picture quicker, whatever it is, you're practicing to do that better. You're building muscle memory.
Yeah. And if you're asking yourself, well, I've done this enough times, I've practiced enough times in my past. You can never practice too many times. I'm sorry, but once you stop practicing, that's where the problems start, I think.
Right, yeah. I look at professional athletes. They still practice more than they did when they were in school.
Yeah.
Why? Because you're instilling those good habits,
right.
You're building on them, and you're creating muscle memory.
Yeah.
If you watch shooting competitions, since we're talking about firearms, those people that can punch that out, I'm going to grab our little practice Beretta here. So those people that can punch it out, get a sight picture, and then pop, 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 pop. That doesn't come the first time they pick up that firearm. They spent hours and hours and hours practicing and fine-tuning every minute detail.
Yeah.
I agree with you. There's no such thing as too much practice.
Right. And I think that's probably where I think most people start screwing up, is they say, I've been around guns so long that, nothing's going to happen. I will tell you, every firearm is different. Mm-hmm. I've unloaded and loaded how many... I can't even count how many firearms I've stripped down.
You and me both.
And I still, if it's a new gun, I have problems. If you don't... And I'll tell you, if I haven't done it for a while, you start to run into trouble.
Perfect example of that when we took a look at the Canic.
Yep.
The breakdown on that is a little bit different than what we're used to, mainly being Glock people.
Right. So that is going to take practice to do. Now, I'm going to practice different guns, and what happens is that practice, you're creating habits, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you create, this is why the 4 firearm rules of safety that we use are the things that we go through, because if you do those every time you're practicing with your firearms, you're following those and you're practicing those over and over again, it almost becomes second nature, and that's what you want. It's like riding a bicycle after a while.
It doesn't almost become second nature. It does become second nature.
Yeah.
You get to the point where you don't have to consciously think about doing it. Your body and your mind just take over and do it.
That's true.
So what are your options for practicing?
Oh.
And there are a lot of them, and most people just think, well, I can go to the range, which that is to your option. You go to an indoor range or an outdoor range.
Right.
That is especially for if you're wanting to actually discharge that firearm.
Right.
But the crazy thing to me is people think, well, the only place I can practice is I can go to the range, and
No.
that really should be the last step in your practice process, because that's
Yeah.
where you're putting it all together and you're actually firing that pew pew.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got the indoor or outdoor range, farmland that your buddy owns, whatever it happens
Right.
to be. But there's a lot of things you want to do before that.
Yeah. One thing is, and I will tell you, a full length mirror is your friend when you're doing that. If you're practicing on holstering a firearm, using the mirror, because if I'm holstering and I'm holstering like this, I'm good. If I notice, oh, my finger's too low, I need to put it here. You're watching for that, and that should be practicing, because practice this, not this. Because if I could holster it, pulling the trigger. So,
And
yeah.
and what I recommend is when you do practice, break it down into sections. Don't
Yeah.
try and do all of it at the same time. And then once you get the sections really good, then you start building on them.
Yep.
So, when I'm at home, and again, I've told you all before, I carry a lot.
Yeah.
I've pretty much always got something on my hip.
Right.
And when I'm at home, I've got something on my hip a lot. And you know what? I will practice my draw as I'm walking around the house. I'll practice pulling it, punching it out, because I've gotten to the point where this is pretty much second nature for me. Something else I'll give you, and there's two schools of thought on this, and there's a group of people that think that, well, if you have to do this, then you don't know what you're doing, and you shouldn't really, be thinking of yourself as someone that handles firearms. I probably shot more rounds downrange than almost all of those people.
Right.
When I holster this, not only do I make sure that I have my finger here, I look as I drop it into the holster.
Yeah.
Why? Because that holster, well, it's roughly in the same spot on my body every time.
Right.
It's not exactly in the same spot.
No.
And the last thing I want to do is clip that holster, and then all of a sudden where's it go?
Right.
There's nothing wrong with looking it into your holster. I've seen too many people try and I'm just going to drop it in there. And unless you've got one of those big Western bucket holsters,
Right.
you're not going to just drop it in. The holsters now, they're made to have that secure fit. You got to put it in at the right angle and in the right spot.
Yeah.
But most of the practice that you can do in the comfort of your own home.
Right. Now, when you're practicing and you're going through these, he's 100% right. You want to do the little bits at a time. Now, when you're practicing and you got those little bits good, then you always add to it.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't start off by unholstering and punching out. He started with just the unholstering part. Feeling how that pulls out of the holster and go through like that. There's sight, there's feel, there's all kinds of stuff. Now I'm 100% right. New gun, new holster, new, not used to carrying. You're going to look down and you're going to see where that gun's going. You want to do that. Now, eventually you could get to the point where you don't have to see where the holster is. But if you're practicing, then you should look and let's pay attention. Let's make sure we're getting those good habits right from the get-go. Because when you get down to it, when that becomes second nature, sometimes I'm not going to be able to take the eyes off the target. Maybe I'm holstering while I have to look at someone else. There's things that I might not be able to do it, but if I practiced and I've looked at it and I've done that 100 times, 200 times, 300 times,
1,000 times,
you get there.
And like what Michael said, it's practice your draw, and then I've got that new Canic. Again, every firearm is a little bit different in feel, in shape, and how it's set up. I will sit there at home, practice punching it out, getting that sight picture acquired right away.
Yep.
Just doing that, because then again it becomes second nature. As I started, I would make little fine tweaks on this one, and okay, well this one when I punch it out, I need to make sure I'm tipping that barrel up just a little bit because I'm not getting that front sight.
Yeah, and I will tell you, you're 100% right, because people say, I've handled firearms, I don't need to punch out, I don't know how to punch out. Really? So the new firearm you have is the exact same shape as your other firearm? Because
the handle's at the same angle?
Yeah. There's different angles that you have to hold up depending on how like a 1911 might be a little more, this may be a little more straighter. There's different angles, so if you're going to start carrying, You have to. I've gotten to the point where, and I have different firearms. I can wrap through once there's muscle memory. Okay, so when this wraps around here, now when it wraps around here, I have no clue how to line this gun up. This is a practice gun. I don't.
There's
I
not
don't
even
really
front
line
sights,
up.
so you can't really line up.
Yeah, well, it does.
Or rear sights, I mean.
Yeah,
There's
it
no
doesn't really
notch
have rear
there.
sights, so I can't line up. So it's hard to line up something like this, but each gun's a little bit different. You have to get that sweet spot, because even though it looks like it might be very big, when you start to punch out, you might miss the target.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's behind the target?
Right.
If it's my drywall, I've got to now do home repair. And
If it's Jenny next door, she's in trouble.
God damn,
Jenny's always getting.
Jenny's
I feel sorry for her.
I'm sorry, Jenny. I'm sorry you live next to us.
Yeah.
Um,
So, yeah, like I've said, a lot of this you can do at home.
Yeah.
And once you get to the point where you feel comfortable with that, you can do reload drills. You can be
Oh,
sitting
yeah.
at home. You can drop that mag, grab another one, slap it in.
right.
One thing that actually I'm going to get to that later because that's better for at the range. Another thing that you can do either with your unloaded firearm or with a practice firearm like this is drawing and getting that sight picture from an awkward position.
Oh yeah,
You
that's
know?
true.
If you're laying on the ground, it's going to be a little bit different. I carry mine on my right hand because I'm right hand dominant.
Right.
I can shoot with both hands. I can draw with both hands, but I'm right hand dominant. That's my first thing is right hand going there. So if I'm laying down and I'm laying on my right hand side, I can't just draw that.
Yeah.
I've got to practice, okay, rolling over either my stomach or to my back or whatever it is, popping up real quick and drawing it as I pop up. Whatever it is that I have to do so that I can get that pistol cleared.
I guess people don't think about that, but if you're laying in bed or if you're at a different angle or something like that, and you have to, all of a sudden there's a target in your bedroom because they broke in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people. I will tell you. I will say most people probably don't practice that. Now
People will go to the range all day long and practice this.
Yep.
You know what they don't practice is someone, like you said, someone breaks into your house.
Yep.
Okay, well now you're shooting around a corner because you want to use that for cover. You're not going to jump out into the hallway like this when you got cover right next to you.
Right.
So you got to practice, leaning out from that corner,
Oh yeah.
clearing things. Those are just things that you should do.
Right.
And
Now-
because it goes back to the old saying of I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Right.
Well, you may have it, but if you haven't practiced ducking around that corner, clearing around a corner into a room, things like that, where you may be firing from an awkward position, and the only thing you know is that squared off range position, it's not going to do you a lot of good, and you're going to punch a whole lot of holes in
Right.
your drywall. And
Now-
little Miss Jenny.
There's also some things you could have in your home. They make these systems that are laser systems that go into your guns.
Yep.
They have targets. You can set them up with your phone. Sometimes just having the laser in there, just so you see where you're at. I would say if you're going to practice in your bedroom, wherever you're going to practice, or leaning out, or wherever it is, sometimes just putting a piece of tape up where you're trying to aim, and just popping out and trying to hit that tape every time. Trying to be consistent with that would be a simple. Everybody has tape in their house.
Yeah.
You get a little piece of little tape and you put it over there and say, "That's for my target." How close did I get it? Am I pretty close to that? Can I, lean this way? Can I do this? If I'm laying on my side and I have to, turn. There's all kinds of stuff.
And those systems that you've talked about, I've not used them myself. Last year when we were at a gun show, we each almost picked one up just
Right.
because it is something I want to add to my repertoire at home.
Yeah.
The two big ones I know of are Mantis and Strikeman.
Right.
But they're great. They got a little target you can set up, and then you use your phone to pick up where that laser hits on the target,
Right.
and give you a score. And yeah, you get something like that. You can use the tape. The downside to the tape is, something is better than nothing. I'll start there. Something is better than
Right.
nothing. Downside to the tape is you're popping out and you're trying to get that sight picture. If you're off, you may think that you're on because I've seen plenty of people that think their sights are lined up perfect and they're shooting over here.
Yeah.
But the nice thing about that is you can get a little table or a chair or something, set that target up on that,
Yep.
practice clearing around that corner.
Yeah.
And anything you can do to make yourself more proficient, better, and safer.
Yeah, I know we don't really talk about too much of those, but I'm actually really a big fan of, if you want to just go down to the store and get yourself like one of the little airsoft guns.
Mm-hmm.
Now, don't get me wrong; those are not entirely accurate, but if you can start getting accurate with an
Yeah.
airsoft gun, you can be pretty accurate with a gun.
Again, something is better than nothing.
Right, right. At this point,
And-
just do. Everybody has a different budget. Everybody has
Mm-hmm.
different things to do it, and I'm not going to say one way is better than the other, but as long as you're trying or doing something, I'm happy.
Yeah, and you make a great point there. I've got a membership to one of our local ranges, Inner 10.
Right,
Only thing it costs me when I go there is my ammunition and my targets.
right,
So technically, I could go there every day.
Right.
I'd love to go there every day. But ammo is fucking expensive, boys and girls.
yes, it is. Yes,
So
it is.
even though I paid for this membership and I paid a good chunk of change for it,
Yeah.
I still can't afford to go there every day
Yeah,
because I'd be broke quick.
yeah.
So a lot of this stuff I do at home.
Yeah, and if you know what, if you work at home, that's even better.
Yeah.
Set your at your work computer, put a little airsoft gun, set a target up, and when you have that bad call, take a couple rounds out on that. After you're done, say do, get it out of your system, move on to the next.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you, sometimes you got to take a breath. Sometimes it's like you picture that target. I've been bowling, so that one pin has been a
Yeah.
lot of people in my day. So
Yeah. So, and let's talk about some things you can do when you go to the range. Because again, like I said, every time I go to the range,
well, it's not
The-
just
the-
range; it's everywhere. There's things you should be able to do all the time.
yeah, but there are some specifics I want to get into the range. Then we'll kind of
Okay.
brainstorm some other things that people can do.
What you got?
Because like I said, every time I go to the range, this is why I see a line of people, pop, 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 drop, pop, 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 pop. So set some things up for yourself. Take a spent casing and stick that into your mag
Oh yeah.
so that you create a misfire, just a random misfire. I tell you, unless I am doing a test, like right now I don't do it with the Canic because I'm still in the middle of putting, at least as we're recording this, I'm still in the middle of putting the 1,000 rounds downrange, seeing if there are
Right.
any malfunctions or anything like that. So I don't do it like that with that, but anything that I've fired a good bit, I will, my Glocks, I've got at least 10 Glock mags that I take to the range every time I go.
Yep.
I will take at least 2 of those and put a random malfunction in them.
Yep.
That way, when I go to fire and I hit that malfunction, something happened. Look, okay, I got to clear it.
Yep. I have dummy rounds for that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, you can get dummy rounds.
You can buy dummy rounds, and I have dummy rounds in there. They work really good for a revolver because when you're teaching someone from a revolver standpoint, it's really nice to see that because that is a good firearm to see when they anticipate recoil and stuff like that. I really like that.
Yeah, that's good. And I will say the best thing for the range is not only tightening up that sight picture, but getting people to not anticipate that recoil. So it's
Yeah.
just a fluid movement.
Right.
Because that's where the majority of your inaccuracies are going to come from.
Right.
Is anticipating that recoil and flinching just a little bit.
Yep. And you could really see it when you set that failure up, like
Mm-hmm.
you're saying. You could tell,
Yeah.
and you could tell you could even tell yourself. So when you do that, did you jerk and like, oh, it didn't click? Notice that. Go, hey, I kind of jerked there, so I was kind of anticipating. That's going to affect your accuracy down the range.
Yes.
So,
And the one thing I will tell people is when you do go to the range, yeah, is it fun to take that firearm, whatever it is, and mag dump down range? It's a blast.
I
and
do that.
and I'll do that at the end of my shooting session. If I've got a couple mags I already have loaded up, I will just mag dump those because
Really?
it's my target ammo, so I don't want to have to unload it and then load it again later. I'll just mag dump that, but majority of the time that I'm at the range, I'm getting that sight picture and nice, slow, even squeeze of that trigger.
Yep.
Just working on that so that I know exactly where that break is.
You know we're opposite, right?
Why, you start off mag
I
dumping?
start off with a mag dump. I start off with a mag dump because then I have to reload.
Okay.
And I like to do that because that will tell me if I'm trying to get as much lead down range and if I have any anything that misfires or anything like that, I'm stress testing it right out the gate.
Okay.
Then I like to go through and add a dummy round or do something like that. And I don't do it too much myself. I should probably more. So practice, practice, practice. That's my bad. But I like to, I guess, I like to mess with my wife when I do that. So I do it to her all the time. She is probably much better than me at this point because all the stuff I should be doing to myself, I do to her.
But she is also not as experienced, so it's
Correct.
good to get her to that point where it can happen. She can recognize it,
Right.
and at least be able to turn to you and say, "Michael, this happened. What should I do?"
Yep, yep.
You know, and we've both shot enough firearms, and we've probably seen just about every malfunction that you can get out there,
Yep.
because really there aren't a ton of them.
There really isn't. You can create
Yeah.
malfunctions. If you put a bullet in your magazine backwards, you will create a
Yes.
malfunction. I'm telling you.
It will
that
not
right
fire.
now. Now it will like almost load.
It'll start to
try
feed.
load. It'll start to feed, but it will not feed, and it will jam up everything. That is where you're going to have to start learning how to, after of course reloading and putting the firearms in there, the bullets in there. You're going to have to learn how to clear a malfunction.
Right. And again, that's why I kind of build those into my shooting repertoire, because I don't know when it's going to happen. I've got 10
Right.
mags here, and somewhere in that 15 rounds that each one holds, there might be a malfunction.
Now, here's the other thing that I want to. Now, there's some scenarios that we're going to go through. You're at the range. You're shooting a lot. How many times have your hands gotten sweaty?
A lot of times.
It's hot. Mm-hmm. This is why we do recommend wearing gloves.
Yes.
And here's my training piece. I'm going to scoot back here. So what happens if I'm shooting and it's a little moist, or I'm clicking a magazine out, or something happens and that happens? Well, I will tell you, I've been on the range. I've been a range master, and I've watched someone.
Here, you go ahead and do it. And
No, I was going to hold it. I watched someone drop it where the gun was like this, and they go to grab it. And they grabbed it, and they shot themselves in the belly. I've been on the range when that happened. The range shuts down.
yeah, no one at the range is having fun after
Yeah,
that.
no, there's no fun. When you see that, you do that. So when it's falling, you're trying to grab an object.
Which is human instinct right there,
That's what's going to happen. See where my hand is?
or at least potentially happen.
See where my
huh?
thumb is? You have your thumb in here. You can put a finger in there. There's a potential that you're going to grab that finger and you could hurt yourself. So I will tell you, firearms are designed, they go through what we call a drop test. You could drop a firearm and it will not fire. It's not like the movies where it falls down and it rolls down the stairs and kills
Fires
everybody.
each time it hits a step. And
Yeah, it doesn't do that. I wish.
that-
I mean, there's
that's
been
Hollywood
times-
magic.
Yeah. This one, I'll be honest, I'm not willing to drop a real gun on purpose.
No.
Unless someone wants to send me a gun to say, beat the hell out of this. And I'll be more than willing to oblige.
We'll bury it in the backyard
That-
for,
yeah.
for a winter. We'll do whatever you want to
Let my
it.
dog piss on it. I don't give a shit.
Or even can use it as a chew toy for a summer.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It'll be unloaded, of course.
Yes.
Even with dogs, we want to be safe. But this I'll drop. And this is why we use a plastic gun. It's plastic. I don't care if I throw this. I don't give a shit. It's whatever I do.
All right, now can you grab it? Because I was going to do one other thing
What?
with it.
Now I
Well,
gotta
you didn't
grab
tell
it.
me you were going to throw it.
I wasn't planning on throwing it. I just threw it because
So-
I wanted to throw it.
So back to what Michael was saying. It doesn't matter if it's a firearm, if it's a knife, if it's a glass. It doesn't matter what it is. If someone drops something, most of us, our natural instinct is to reach out and grab that. So not only is it possible that you could shoot yourself in the belly, but what if you catch it like this? Oh,
Yeah.
I just shot Michael in the chest now.
Yeah. See, a knife's the same way. And we have, this is a plastic knife. See? Plastic knife. And it actually says training knife on there. I don't know if you can see it there. But it says training knife. It has a handle. But if I drop this and I try to grab the blade, if it's double bladed, I could cut myself.
If it's single bladed, you
If
cut
I try
yourself.
to reach out, it's going to stab me like this. There's a lot of, if it's a sharp object, sometimes it's better just to, if it starts to fall, step away
Yep.
from it. That's what I would recommend.
Yeah, because I will tell you, all of my knives are so sharp that you definitely don't want to do this to them.
Yeah.
because you could be missing digits depending on how hard you grab it.
I have seen people like stab themselves with a pencil because they were messing around and it hit the table and the lead went in there. And I've had to get tweezers out to pull the little lead pencil bits out of there. If that hurts, what do you think this is going to do if it's real? So,
But no, I encourage everyone, next time you go to the range, create some malfunctions. One that I saw someone do, and I don't know if I like it or not. Part of me likes it because it's just an even more realistic malfunction, and in that it's going to create something you're not going to look at it and say, oh, well, that's my dummy round. Is they took and they were shooting a 9mm,
okay.
and they put a 40 cal round in their 9mm mag.
Oh, that will
Because
go
it will fit. It'll fit in the mag. It will not fit into the
into the barrel.
Yes.
Yeah,
Now I would feel safe doing that because I've got a round I know is not going to chamber in that 9mm barrel. I don't think I
Yeah.
would do it the other way where I'm firing a 40 caliber and I stick a 9mm in.
Yeah, I would be I would not recommend doing that because even if it feeds and it just barely feeds, if you fire that, you can potentially cause a catastrophic event.
Yeah, because the 9mm will chamber into a 40 caliber.
Yeah.
9mm is just a touch smaller, but the 40 caliber will not chamber into a 9mm.
I want to say a 38, like even if you get a 38 short, it might be able to, because it's the same diameter of a 9mm. And I will tell you this causes more problems, and we're going to get into this a lot later, because that's when you're going to get into 5.56, 223, 7.65 versus 308.
Right.
Some of those you could chamber correctly. The other way, you can blow up your barrel. You could cause blow up. You could poke out your eye. There's all
General
kinds
of thumb is just because it fits doesn't mean you should shoot it.
Yeah, yeah.
Now that's
That
why
goes in dating too.
Yes. That's why I don't mind so much the putting a 40 caliber into a 9mm mag, because there is no way you're going to get that round into the barrel and chambered.
Same thing.
Unless you've got a real big hammer.
Right. Yeah.
And then you're not going to have a gun that you can fire.
See, a 38 and a 9mm, you don't
Right.
want to do that either.
Right, exactly, because those will fit.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I would say
The only one of those I would do is loading a 40 into a 9 to create a malfunction.
or a 45 into a 9.
I don't know if you can get a 45 into a 9mm mag.
You might not be able to.
40
That's
is
true.
just a touch bigger than 9mm, so I know those will fit.
Yeah, I would say if you're advanced and you know what you're doing and you know it's not going to load, and you want to, I don't know.
But if it's something that'll fit, I would not do the 38 and 9mm because that will feed and load.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do a 9mm into a 40 mag because that'll
Yeah.
feed and load. Don't do a 50 caliber into a 12 gauge unless you got a really long pull string.
Yeah, yeah.
I've seen videos of that and it's not pretty.
Let's see. I would my safety rule kicks in, and that's where I say that's what they created dummy rounds for.
Yeah, and that's the best option is a dummy round.
Yep.
Um,
And
But
you know
yeah,
what? I don't care if it's a 38 loading in a 9mm. If it's a dummy round, who cares?
Yeah.
That I'm okay with.
because that striker pin's still going to hit nothing that's going to cause a reaction.
Correct. I don't want the explosion, and
Right.
I don't want a split barrel or anything like that. It's all about safety for me.
Yeah.
So.
But definitely practice. And,
Yep.
and again, practice isn't just going to the range and shooting. It's a lot of things that you can do at your house.
Yeah.
I've done this at night because I don't want to cause panic out in the daylight doing this, but I have taken and gone driving and found an empty parking lot in the middle of the night and practiced getting out of my vehicle and pulling my firearm. Just because if I have to do it, I don't want it to be the first, second, third, fifth, 20th time that I've done it. I want it to be something that I'm comfortable with and built some muscle memory in doing it.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to drive out to the mall and say, okay, packed mall, let's try doing this.
That's where hopefully you have like an area that you can go, like a parking garage somewhere that you can go and do it in privacy. Now, here's the other safety feature I'm going to say, the other safety for this too. When you're doing this, you will always, always, always make sure that firearm is unloaded. Yes. You do not want to be practicing any of these maneuvers or any of this when the firearm is loaded. The only time you should do one of these maneuvers when the firearm is loaded is when you are in an active situation where you actively have to protect yourself, the life of someone.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're practicing, the practice firearm should always be unloaded. And I will tell you, this model's a Beretta 9mm. I got this so long ago, I don't know why I got Beretta. They make others. So if you like Glock, they have a Glock version. Guess what? It fits right in the holster. If you want to go and in the privacy somewhere else and practice this, and let's say someone sees you, they call the police on you and they say, "Yep, this is what I was doing. I thought I was in private. I did." It's a plastic piece. I'm practicing, and if you explain that to the police officer and say, "This is what I'm doing, and it's a fake gun. I'm just getting used to it," just in case someone happens to see you as they drove by, or it's some crazy scenario that happens, if you explain and say, "Hey, I didn't want to practice with a real gun. I got this fake plastic thing that's black, red, blue. They come in all kinds of orange. They come in all kinds of different colors." I would recommend not getting black. I would recommend getting blue, orange, or red. That tells you. That police officer might say, "Hey, someone said you may be staring down the barrel of a police officer holding a gun." That's when you're going to comply.
Yes.
Yes, officer. I have a training pistol. It is red, and it is in the passenger seat. Or here it is. And they're going to come over. And I will tell you, there's nothing that's going to make the scenario better.
The last thing you want to do in that situation is, if I'm over here practicing and Michael's the police officer that comes up and interrupts me, last thing, again, keeping rules of firearm safety in mind, last thing you want to do is, "What, officer?"
Yeah, that's a bad idea.
Yeah, that will get you at the very best a hospital visit real quick.
Now this is why I would recommend, if you're going to do that. And these practice pistols aren't very much. They're pretty cheap.
How are they? $15-20 at the most?
$15-20. This one's actually a pretty heavy version. And this one was a lot more back in the day. But if I'm like this and I see all of a sudden lights blue and
red lights,
I'm gonna be like,
and
so I don't have a real gun that I fell that dropped.
And I will tell you, if someone sees you with a firearm and they call the police, it's probably going to be more than one black and white that comes out there.
Right.
And they're going to be agitated.
And you have to understand that if you're going to carry concealed, if you think that you're going to follow all the laws and think that, "Oh, since I follow all the laws, I don't have to worry about the police at all," that's a misnomer. You're going to have an interaction with the police. Someone could see it. Anybody calls the police, they're going to investigate, and your best bet is, if it's holstered, keep your hands away from it. Let the police officer know. Say, "Hey, I'm putting my hands up," or I'm going to keep hold of the steering wheel, officer. I have a firearm on the right side of my hip. I have a concealed carry permit. What do you want to do? That police officer he's going to tell your demeanor. And you're going to say, "Okay, just don't make any sudden movements," And I will tell you, if I'm carrying on this side, my wallet's on this side. I carry my wallet on the other side now, and I do that on purpose.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Unfortunately, I don't do that, but now we just told everyone which side to pickpocket us on. But
good luck on that.
Yeah.
We also told them that we're armed. If you want to pickpocket, we're armed.
Right. So yeah, good luck on that one. Have fun.
Yeah.
But no, and I'm the same way. I always carry on my right side. My wallet happens to be on the right side too, and I do not have a problem with, if I have an interaction with an officer, first thing I'm going to do is tell them, "I just want to let you know, I do have a firearm on my right hip."
Yep.
From that point on, they're calling the ball. Whatever they tell me to do, that's what I'm going to do, which I would assume that once I tell them that my wallet is also on my right side, they're probably going to ask me to step out of the vehicle so that they can secure the firearm. which by all means they can do it.
And sometimes, and I've had it, and I've had that scenario, and I said, well, I said, do you want me to get my wallet? Because it's in my right pocket as well.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, hold on a minute. And I watched his partner come up on the other side, and he goes, just go very, very slow.
Right.
And so
And they probably had you pull your shirt up so that they could see it and see where your hand's going in relation
I think
to
what
it.
I did was I put my hand like this,
Mm-hmm.
so my palm was away, and I reached down and I grabbed it, and then I pulled it.
The wallet.
I pulled my wallet up and then over. So I made some very deliberate movements there that were like, hey, look at me. It's exactly the opposite of what you do in magic.
Right, right. But we're getting off subject a little bit with that. But anyway, it still stands. Practice, practice, practice.
I don't
if
know.
If you think you've practiced enough, practice more.
I want to say you should probably practice pulling out your wallet.
Yeah, with your hand facing the opposite direction, with
Yeah.
your palm out.
I would, whatever is comfortable for you, or practice it and see how close you get to your firearm. Because I'm telling you, if it gets a little close, maybe you should think about changing it to the other part.
Yeah.
Or maybe you should start practicing, sitting in your car and say, let me pull my wallet out and put it on my lap real quick before the police officer gets there, and then put your arm. That's practice too.
Yeah,
That could save your life.
And you know, it is, because in all reality, odds are, at least in this state,
Yeah.
because we are a required to notify state. So
Right.
if you are carrying concealed or open, and you get pulled over or detained for any reason, you are required to notify that police officer that you have a firearm.
Yeah.
So you don't even have to be doing something like practicing out in the parking lot somewhere. They could pull you over for speeding,
Yeah.
failure to signal, failure
Yeah.
to stop.
And if you have never pulled out your wallet while holding your firearm, or in a seat or sitting down or anything like that, that movement, if that police officer thinks you're going for a firearm, or that, I hate to say it, but I think that is a practice
Yeah.
too. Anything that you need to do to get out of the situation alive, you should practice.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that.
All right.
All right, so with that, do you think we covered the practice?
Oh, hell yeah.
All right, I'm going to go practice now.
Okay.
All right. So thanks for watching, everyone. We're on YouTube and Rumble.
Yep. And of course you could subscribe us on Facebook, but
Yes.
make sure you are always shooting straight and always being safe. Don't forget the practice too.
Yes. And take care, everyone. We'll see you next time. Again, no cleaning.
I know, this is great, isn't it?
We're going to use that more often.
I know, that's what I'm saying.